Um, Good evening. I'd like to call our March 1st meeting of the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board to order. I think the posted meeting agenda stands as posted. There are going to be a number of continuations and whatnot, but there's nothing new added to the agenda that you don't have on the printed agenda that's been sent out. Could I hear a motion to approve Jim's meeting notes?
So moved, Melody.
I second, Edna.
Thank you, Edna. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. I know we've all received a copy of the February 16th minutes from our last meeting. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So move,
Thank you,
Kathy.
Second, Edna.
Thank you, Edna. Any modifications, changes, anything like that in the minutes that anyone caught? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Very good. I don't have any specific correspondence and announcements. I think something that we're still waiting on. The town board is still working on the hospitality definitions and the country in two definition. My understanding is they did open the public hearing on both of them on Monday. I don't know that there was any comment, nothing that I was referred to me. And they've continued the public hearing on. They did not take any action. I think they're still looking at making a few changes here and there. I don't know what they would be. I think if there are any substantial changes to either one of them, they would probably be referred back to us for review again. If there's any significant change, if it's just minor tweaking, things like that, I doubt that it would be referred back to us. But at this time, I don't know. I don't have a timeline of when those are going to be put into the zoning law, so that some of the applications that are before us dealing with hospitality uses, that we would be able to move forward on review, since at the present time, one of the main elements that we don't have right now is how to determine occupancy. So now obviously for things of that sort, that's critical. So many things are based on that: parking, water supply, sewer, all that sort of stuff, traffic. And so obviously we can't do our job without that information. So I know they're working on it, but at this point, I do not know when it's going to be coming before us. I'm trying to see if there's something else that I can maybe put into these few minutes here before our first public hearing at 6:40. Does anyone else have anything that they would like to ask, or anything that's come up that they would like to share with the rest of the membership of the board?
Maybe Jim could update the board in terms of the presentation we saw, in terms of our report for the year.
Uh,
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I can do two things. One, Michael, just in reference to your discussion about the zoning law, potential zoning law changes. They actually don't legally take effect until the state has signed off on those. So even once the town board has passed them, they need to go to the Secretary of State for approval, which is usually a pretty standard thing. But that, that's until they're officially signed off on, they're not officially law in the town. So that adds a little bit of extra time.
How long does it normally take, Jim? Do you know?
We've only done a couple of these in town the last couple of years, but it seems to take maybe a month or two. I think it depends on what's on their plate. It may be just a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So it's not too bad, but again, it is an additional, waiting period. And then, yeah, in terms of the presentation, our last meeting, I presented a 2020 kind of year-end wrap up of all the work that you planning board members did last year, all of the presentations that were done, and a lot of the material that we reviewed, a lot of the different types of projects we reviewed. And I made a request to the town board to make that presentation to them as well. And I need to confirm it, but it does appear that we will be on March 8th to make that presentation. So next week, plan on presenting that to the town board so that they can see all the good work that's been going on and just how much is going on here in the town of Rhinebeck. So if you are available and want to call into that meeting and watch me present it a second time, please do.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep, absolutely.
There is another issue that's going to be coming up before the planning board probably this year. Some of you may be familiar with the issue of the mine expansion out on White Schoolhouse Road. That's been an issue for a number of years now. The most recent development is because of the one of the endangered species that's on the site, the Blanding's turtles. the applicant was required to get an incidental take permit from DEC to put in a road to access the mine. They have no access at the present time. And the town and neighbors groups, whatnot, submitted a good deal of comments on why we didn't feel that that permit was justified, but DEC has decided to issue the permit. What the town is going to do in response to that, I don't know at this point in time. There may be some action taken. The town is working on weight limits for a number of our smaller roads to see exactly what is and is not permissible or should be permissible on them in terms of the ability of the road to sustain heavy traffic, things of that sort, blind curves, safety issues, things of that sort. So I know that that's being worked on right now. But what will happen is, in order to mine on that site, the applicant will have to come before the town planning board to get a special use permit to both mine and to access White Schoolhouse Road, which is a town road. That's under the control of the town. We would probably also have some oversight of the construction of the road going into the existing mine site, DEC mine site. It's about 35 acres. They're proposing to try and expand it eventually to 94 acres. But right now there's a 34 acre and they have, I believe, a 9-acre permit from DEC to do a I think it's around a 5-acre pond, 35 feet deep on that site. And DEC controls whatever goes on within the DEC permitted mine. Everything outside of that is the responsibility of the town of Rhinebeck Planning Board. So that will be coming before us at some point in time, I'm sure before the end of the year. So that's something, I guess, to look forward to. I don't know. I think we're ready for our first public hearing, 6:40. Okay. Our first public hearing is Frank Pinto at 155 Way Road, Pool in Addition, site plan, special use permit, and wetlands permit. The applicant has requested to continue the public hearing to April 5th at 6:35. I believe he's still working with his engineer on the septic system, trying to get a approval that the health department will approve so that they can add the extra bedroom onto their house. So if I could hear a motion to continue this public hearing until April 5th at 6:35.
So moved, Delise.
Thanks, Delise.
Second, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Okay. Our next public hearing at 6:45. It's a few minutes to go yet. I guess the other thing that I might just bring up is, as you may know, all planning board members are required, I believe, to take 2 hours of training every year in terms of how the function of planning boards, our responsibilities, our jobs. Normally, the training is offered by the New York State Planning Federation, the Dutchess County Planning Federation. In the last couple of years, our own planning board, working with Jim, has conducted its own training sessions, bringing down different people, such as from ag and markets, to discuss how we deal with zoning issues with farming, things of that sort. We had Charles Birnbaum come and do training for us on cultural landscapes, things like that. And so we have been a little bit knocked off base by the Zoom. It's a little hard to do that when you can't all get together, but we do still have the requirement of training 2 hours. I believe it's 2 hours.
I thought it was 4, Michael, but
4?
I thought it was 4 too.
yeah, I think it's 4.
4? Okay, well, 4 hours of training. And generally, both in the spring and in the fall, Dutchess County Planning Federation and the New York Planning Federation all offer different classes. They're now offering them all online. So it's not a matter of going to a physical location anymore. You can sign up and you can do it online. And very often there's some pretty interesting things that are being offered. And then they make sure that you are credited for the time that you spend, and so that you've met your 4-hour requirement. So, and I know
Michael,
Gretchen is
Michael,
about getting
can
that
we-
information out to everybody.
Can
Yes,
we have a conversation with Jim about, I mean, we do have a significant number of new board members. So, I mean, there might be some basic training that we could offer internally. I mean, I think we found that the ones we offer that are relevant to the specific needs of Rhinebeck Village and town are more meaningful. So
True.
perhaps we can explore that and see if there's something we could offer in the spring and the fall to internally to ourselves in the village. Or
I
perhaps
think,
been expanding to the Northern Dutchess Alliance area.
no, I think that's a good idea. I think that's definitely a good idea, something we can discuss with Jim. Okay, I
Yeah.
think it's 6:45, or awfully close. Our next public hearing is Mario Sosto, Rhinecliff Road, site plan review for a single-family dwelling. I don't know if the applicant or the applicant's representatives are here.
Present, Mario.
Okay, is anyone here with you?
Nope.
Okay, well, have you supplied Jim with, yep, you have, very good. Can you just go over the plan that Jim has put up here on the screen and just describe to everyone exactly what it is you would like to do?
Well, it's an existing 100 by 225 lot. We filed for a septic with the Board of Health, which has been approved, which will be in the rear of the yard, the property. And we're going to construct a one-family dwelling shown there in the middle within the setbacks. The driveway that's shown there is not exact. It's going to be the driveway that's shown on this. This is more or less the septic plan, the original, but we got a permit with the state for the driveway. The entrance will be 8 foot towards the middle of the property more. But other than that, everything's more or less the same. I think we gave you that drawing also.
Um,
So basically, we want to put a one-family dwelling on it.
Jim, do you have another site plan showing?
I'm trying to see, I got a bunch of files, trying to see if I, different one.
We submitted it after the last meeting.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if I can figure out which one it is. Nope, it's not that one. I have that one in this little site plan. Is that different? Or is that the same one? That appears, is this the right one, Mario? The driveway step further in?
No, this is the original.
The original, isn't it? Yeah. I don't think I have the file in here, Michael, but
Well, the only difference on it is the entrance is offset. I mean, it's just, it starts 8 feet to the left of this drawing and it
Okay.
swings back to the right.
Okay. Well, I'm the one who did the site visit for this. I went out and took a look at the site. And it's about the last of the existing building lots developed there along that side of Route 308. Backs up onto the gardens. They're like all the other sites, it's very narrow, sort of long and very narrow. Because of the nature of the soil there and whatnot, the septic system is a berm system, a built-up system. And you can see on the plan, pretty much the backyard is going to be septic and reserve field for that. The applicant is making a good effort to save a lot of the large trees that are on the property. Fortunately, they're mostly along the perimeter, the periphery of the property. So there's a chance to maintain a lot of the good trees that are on the property. The site, like most of those areas along that section of Route 308, is a wet site, which is why you have the berm there and why you also have the drainage and the culverts along the property there, right along the side of Route 308. It has public water, which they all do there, which actually makes these lots buildable, because I don't know that you'd be able to get a well and septic on these small lots. But it seems to me that given the constraints on the lot, the way this is laid out, the way it's being set up, health department approval for the septic system, it's a tough lot, it's a tough place to build, but it would seem that it is a legitimate lot of record that building here would be permissible. I don't know, I think we heard something from, got a written report from the CAB. Is anyone from the CAB here today who would like to comment? Okay. Members of the planning board, anyone with questions for the applicant or comments or concerns? Okay. Jim, is there anyone who would like to speak? Anyone of the public?
If so, please unmute yourself and let us know. There's nothing in the chat box. Don't see anyone unmuting themselves, Michael, so I think we are good to go there.
Okay. Then could I hear a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved, Melody.
Second?
Second, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. I will attempt to read a resolution, and if I get dropped, if Melody or Jim would pick it up for me. Thank you.
Sure.
The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts as follows on the application by Mario Susto for site plan approval under Town Code Chapter 125 for construction of a single-family residence on Rhine Cliff Road within the RM1 zoning district. We reaffirm the proposed action is type 2 under seeker. Based upon review of submitted information, including reports from planning board members and CAB, WAC members on their site visit to the project property, find the proposed work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. With respect to the application for site plan approval, we find the proposed work taking place on a lot that has been in existence for years, meets the intent of section 101.10.2, which permits modification of specific requirements of a subdivision that are required to create a conforming lot. The planning board has determined that they would not require the applicant to attempt to change the lot to a subdivision application due to the hardship of trying to do so, and thereby the planning board utilizes the authority in 101.10.2 to specifically allow this project to move forward on the existing lot, which does not meet current lot size requirements. B, finds the proposed work and intended use to be consistent with Town Code Chapter 125 and approves the application inclusive of the application materials and plans by Cummings Engineering PC dated December 14th, 2020. C, we authorize the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the below conditions and the requirements within 6 calendar months of the adoption of this resolution. Submission of the above cited site plan in the form and numbers specified within Town Code Chapter 125, except as may be modified to a lesser number by the chair in consideration of filing and distribution requirements, and including all thereon all required stamps, seals, and certifications. Payment of any outstanding fees and or reimbursable amounts due the Town of Rhinebeck related to the review and processing of applications subject to this resolution, and receipt of all approvals, authorizations, or certifications required herein or from any other town, county, state, or other agency as required to undertake the proposed actions. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Melody.
Second.
Edna,
Thank you, Edna. Any further discussion? I'll poll the board. Melody,
Aye.
Delise,
Aye.
Edna,
aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay, Mr. Zusto, what you need to do is get the, the final site plan with the necessary stamps on it and signatures, and get that to me to stamp and sign. And with that, you can get the building permit that you need.
Okay, thank
I'll
you.
also be sending
very
you an
welcome.
email with follow-up instructions.
Great. Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think looks like 6:50. Our final public hearing, Blue Brindle LLC, Accurate Hook Road, site plan and special use permit, single family dwelling, garage, pool, and pool house. Is the applicant and or the applicant's representatives here to present tonight?
Yes, we are.
Okay, do you want to take it away?
Yes, I'm Michelle Zerfus with Berger Engineering. And with me is Geyer McCabe and Serge Young. Serge is the architect, Geyer is the applicant. So so this project is on Acre Hook Road. It's a single family development with a house, a pool house, a swimming pool. It's before the planning board because it's adjacent to an historic site and they are having a accessory dwelling. Those are the two purposes, plus the mass grading. There's going to be a proposed driveway from an existing drive up to the house, loops around and goes back. Prior to submission to the planning board, the applicants had a wetland biologist out to walk the site, and they determined that there's a wetland on what looks like the north side, the upper part of this, which is actually the east side of the property. The plan's rotated. That's the east side of the property. So the wetland is not on the parcel. It's adjacent to the parcel. And the proposed project is well away from the 100-foot buffer. They've also been working with the town historian for several months. And the town historian to do some things. We also have site plan approval. No, we're not site plan approval, so we have health department approval for the septic system and the well. Now, as I say, that they've been looking at the archaeology, the site itself is, the majority of the site is not an archaeologically sensitive area. Only the front part, that's the left, there's a stone wall kind of cutting through a vertical line. That's a stone wall. The part to the left of that is in the archaeologically sensitive area. The rest of it is not an archaeologically sensitive area per the state mapping. And they've been discussing with the town historian for several months. And what the town historian has said is the property has historically been open fields or woods and not archaeologically significant. And that she has a copy of the town report, and she's checked this in the town by a report by Chris Vogel, and she has checked the report and it concluded that archaeologically would not be required for this permit. There's been a town registry because this is adjacent, and unfortunately I don't know how to pronounce the Mamaking property to the west, which is just below the bottom of this site. As far as site plan is concerned. And because of that, in 1984 and in 1987, there were two different building surveys, and those were completed and done. And as I said, those were on the adjacent parcel. Originally, this was part of the whole big parcel and was subdivided off. This was done in the 80s and 90s. And that this part of the property never had any of the buildings, the outbuildings that's associated with the properties adjacent to this. And now if you want to go to the elevations of the building, I will turn this over to Serge Young, the architect, and he can go through how he's designed these buildings to fit into the site and the adjoining sites.
Yeah, hi, this is Serge Young, the architect on the project. And I think from the very get-go and start, there was always a great sensitivity to the site because it is so beautiful, and also to make really in terms of kind of architecture to be incorporated on it is something that would be regionally appropriate to what you would come across, whether it be in Rhinebeck or anywhere in Dutchess County. And so we have a very sort of, in some ways, a very simplistic looking, but very classy looking house with that one's missing the garage part on it, but there's the front elevation as if you were coming up the drive from the north. You know, it's positioned sort of on the crest of a knoll sitting in between, I guess, one rock outcropping and a ridge line. So it's really from, whether it be from the east or the west, you know, the grade is higher than the house, I guess is the best way. It slopes up away from the house to the east and to the west. And then, of course, the part of the site that's being developed between the house and the pool house, was sort of restricted and basically covering the area of where the septic is in place. So, really doing a minimal disturbance to the site, really just trying to keep it as naturalistic as possible and still meet the cave's requirements for their house and what they would like to have there.
Okay, thank you. Is there further information that the applicant or the applicant's representatives would like to present at this moment?
I didn't mention that the CAB has been out there and they found there's no really significant issues with this site. The usual watch the timing of the trees to be removed, and that is one thing, is they'd like to be able to remove the trees before March 31st. So if the planning board meeting is not closed today, or the approval is not given today, if it could be on the next agenda on the 15th.
Okay.
And
There are
one
a
other
few
thing.
clarifications that I'd like to make right now. I know there's been a number of discussion about the archaeology and whatnot, and I think it needs to be presented that the archaeological report that Mr. Vogel presented, he was the director of the Dutchess County Soil and Water Conservation Service. And for many years, I worked with Extension, Dutchess County Extension, was on their board, whatnot, and I worked with Craig. He was an excellent agronomist, soil scientist, farmer. He was not an archaeologist. Therefore, he was not in a position to present an archaeological report, particularly about pre-contact archaeology, which is something that we're finding all over the town of Rhinebeck. This is a very rich area in pre-contact artifacts, things of that sort. We just received a note from the town historian today that she had tracked down some documents dealing with this property and this area, and now recognizes that yes, indeed, because of the potential indication of pre-contact use and settlement in this area, an archaeological, at least a 1A, would probably be required to determine exactly what is necessary. As you may know, the Historic Archaeological Preservation Advisory Committee has sent a recommendation to the planning board to require a 1A and a 1B on this site. As the archaeologist, the professional archaeologist on that committee has said that conditions on that site make it likely that there could be pre-contact artifacts use of that site. And basically what a 1A is, it's a literature survey to see exactly what has been found, if anything, with relation to this property. The other thing that I think I need to point out is that this property was, prior to being subdivided off, part of the Monensking property, which is on the National Register. And all National Register properties that we do review, we had asked for at least a 1A to determine through the literature search what might be on the site, what we might be looking for, what we should be aware of. So that's the basis of the recommendation that I'm going to be asking the planning board to make tonight, that a 1A and a 1B be looked at, and preferably by an archaeologist with pre-contact experience, because pre and post contact are very different eras, and the way that one goes about researching them is quite different as well. Having said that, who did the site visit for the planning board? If they could give their report.
That would be Edna and me.
Would you like to?
Edna, do you want to take, you want to take the lead, Edna?
Sure. Melody and I went out there with the engineer and walked in very crunchy snow for, I'm guessing, a quarter mile to the house site, through an area that had previously been cleared for a driveway, although the driveway is not yet in. The property is very wooded and quite lovely. There are rock outcrops that you can see along the driveway as you walk in. On one side, there is a length of stone wall that remains. The buildings and the septic system were staked, so we were able to get some idea of what would go where. Melody, you had some questions on whether the pool was going to be shaded and whether the applicant might want to do anything about that.
Well, I did. I concur with Edna that, once you get up, I mean, I would say you climb gradually and climb and you get to this sort of plateau. And I think the applicants have selected a beautiful location in which to put their future home. Very secluded, very lovely. And, but one of the things I observed is that the proposed pool location, everything up here is surrounded, as Edna said, with a nice woodlands. And the pool appeared to us when we were up there to be in a location that will be significantly covered by tree cover in the summer. So the only question it was actually quite shaded when we were up there in the early morning hours. So the only question we asked of Joe Berger was, were there going to be any more tree removals in the future? And the only suggestion we made was, if you determine that you would like to take down more trees so that you have more sunlight onto your pool, this would be the time to do it, rather than to get through a summer with a pool and say, hey, we've got no sunshine here and it's not working. Because it does appear, I think, to both Edna and I, and Edna trudged all the way down to the pool location, that it will be very, very shaded. So that was only the point I raised when we were up there in terms of how it would be functionally useful to the family if it was so shaded.
Melody, this is Michelle with Berger Engineering.
Yeah.
We'll be submitting plans. I sent PDFs, but it's just today, so they're not for tonight's meeting, but submitting plans. Most of the area disturbance is the tree area, but there will be a little bit of additional trees outside of the area disturbance, the previous area disturbance to the east of the pool that they want to take down. So tomorrow there'll be some new plans sent to the planning board that shows a little bit larger area of disturbance to take into account the trees that you suggested.
So they just came in today, Michelle?
The PDFs did. The paper, I wanted to wait and see if there was anything out of here before I submitted the paper tomorrow.
Yeah, no, well, I haven't had a chance to look at that.
That's what I'm saying. I know you guys haven't had a chance to look. I'm just saying that you are correct. There will be more trees and it's on its way, but it's not available. I didn't expect you guys to have seen it. I'm just saying, yes, that you are correct. There will be more and it's on its way.
Okay, thanks very much for responding to that.
I had a question. Somewhere I read that there might be some storm water runoff onto an adjacent property. Could we see where that might be?
Was that in Ray's letter?
Or it might have been in Jim's notes.
Oh.
There's 3 different directions. There's one direction to the east, which is the upper part of the project. That's to that wetland on the eastern side. There'll be a small little amount behind the garage that goes to the west. And then the majority of it flows down to Acre Hook Road through the natural swale. And I submitted the drainage report with the drainage maps to CPL. They sent back some comments, and again, not that you've seen it yet, but my email today and my plans tomorrow are responses to theirs. Theirs were very minor, just I hadn't put the size of the culverts on. They wanted the size of the culverts and a couple more, a little bit more explanation of some of the erosion control, but they didn't have any comments on the actual drainage report.
I would like a clearer idea eventually on specifically where stormwater might go off the property. The reason I'm interested in this is to the east, something that's called hydro area. You're calling it a wetland. This is a very unusual woodland pool. It is not seasonal. And I think it could change the nature of that pool to have any significant amount of additional water entering it. There's another one, I believe, on the other property to the west. There's another little pool area marked hydro area. So anyway, for that reason, I would like to see exactly where it is thought stormwater is going to go off the property.
The one thing, this is the applicant, I can add to that is that it's uphill both directions.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so from the pool house, there would be no way for water to go uphill to get down into those wetlands. And then to the also to the east on the other property that you mentioned, there's a very large hill like that the water would have to go up and over to get to the other side. And that's just, you can see that in the topo report there, how if you look just directly north of the pool house, how the elevation increases.
Right, I can see that. Yeah, and that seems almost to be the case surrounding the property. So I'm wondering how any water is going to leave the property.
I'm not sure if it's gonna, it's gonna get absorbed in the ground. I don't know if you're really gonna get, any more additional water than you do right now. There's a lot of, the driveway is gonna be not impervious. It's gonna be drainable, so it's gonna absorb water. I think the ground's gonna absorb water. I don't really see how we're adding more water to the site. And there's some grading, but again, I think most of it's gonna be contained within the area of the development.
Edna, we received comments to raise comments on this today. Obviously, we haven't had a chance to review them. We will be sending those down to Ray to see if he feels that his questions have been satisfactorily answered. And I can add to that to say if he could just take a look to see if he sees any potential issues with stormwater leaving the property, going onto adjoining properties. Just take a look at that. So we'll be sending that down to him this week. Any other questions from members of the board, either for the applicant, the applicant's representatives, or for Melody and Edna?
Michael, this is Jim. Just want to make a quick comment, something I heard, maybe I misheard it. Just want to make sure any files that are being relayed back and forth should go through Gretchen, just to make sure we have copies of those and they're going the right way. I'm not sure if I misheard that they're going directly to Ray or something like that. So they should go to Gretchen to be sent along.
It was emailed to Gretchen and the.
They were, okay. I just heard.
We'll go to Gretchen tomorrow.
Okay.
I just.
And then
it was last minute. I just wanted you to know that we were doing that because just so that you knew we weren't blowing off the comments.
okay, yeah, I just want to make sure we're clear on how the files get transferred. And then otherwise, I think, the planning board, you've seen my memo and it appears the applicant has addressed most of the comments I had previously. I'll take a look at the new files that came in today, obviously for the next time. Do you want to talk about the idea, the living in the pool house, Michael? That was one comment I had. That's been clarified, living in the pool house while the main house is built.
Yes.
And that was determined to be okay by town staff.
Yeah, I spoke with Michelle about that. And as long as we're approving the overall plan together, both the pool house and the main house, they're under the same approval. They're not being phased, anything like that. She didn't seem to see that as a problem.
Right. Okay.
Can I bring up one thing, and that they got a few more trees they need to take down? And it's already March 1st. If
I don't see us having an approval of, I don't know, Michael, you weigh in. We still have a lot of information to get back. I mean, most especially from Ray Jerkowski. His turnaround, I'm not sure what the time on that is. So I don't know how to advise you on tree removal.
Okay, well, I was wondering if we could, even though I realize the 15th is not the normal track we would be on if we could be back on that agenda.
I,
Because
oh.
the other thing too is they've gotten their ZBA variances that are, now the ZBA is waiting just for seeker before they complete. And this next ZBA meeting will be March 17th, and the following ZBA meeting is not until April 21st.
But my understanding is that this meeting, that this particular project is a type 2 under seeker. Therefore, by declaring it type 2, seeker's complete.
Okay, I
So
thought
I'm not sure what the ZBA is waiting for.
okay, I wasn't aware of the type that it had been typed yet. If it's type 2, I'll let the ZBA know.
Yeah, in the original application, when we accepted the application and set the public hearing, one of the first things we do is we determine the type for under seeker. And residential development, particularly under the updated seeker regulations, for the most part is always going to be type 2.
Yes, yeah, normally
So,
I just didn't want to.
Yeah,
so
that was in our
seeker,
procedural
seeker is
resolution.
complete. At least from the planning board standpoint, seeker is complete.
Thank you.
Okay. Jim, any members of the public wish to be heard tonight?
Just so you know, Chris does have a copy of the procedural, so the ZBA does know about the secret determination.
Okay, thank you, Gretchen.
Not seeing anyone unmuting or in the chat box, Michael.
Okay. Well, I guess the last piece of business I have is to do the request that a type 1A and type 1B archaeological literature survey be done, and then just a field visit if necessary for this project. If I could hear a motion to request that be undertaken by the applicant.
So moved, Melody. Type 1
Sec-
and type B.
Second for discussion, Edna?
Okay. Edna, what would you like to,
Well, we
start up the discussion?
have a number of new members who have no idea, I suspect, what is being asked. Melody was kind enough to run through with me an overview of what a 1A, 1B might consist of, and then what would happen if something were found and so forth. Could we have a 4-minute overview, perhaps by Kathy or Melody or the two together, to help everybody understand what's being asked for here?
Actually,
Edna,
Jim has
Jim
just.
is ready to do that.
Yep.
Jim anticipated this request, Edna, and I think he's prepared to do that for us and put up on the screen here exactly, there you go, and describe what they are. Unless you'd like someone else to do it.
Yeah, so I put this up on the screen a little earlier, and then obviously took it down. But the phase 1A and 1B is something that's done through New York State, through SHPO, Parks, Rec, Historic Preservation. And as you can see here, phase 1 itself is reconnaissance, where you just go out and essentially gather the information. And as it states, I think it's pretty straightforward. 1A is a literature search and a sensitivity study, requiring to go out and look at sources such as SHPO, universities and local libraries and other places to consult what information is out there and undertake an initial field inspection of the project to assess previous disturbance and the level of testing that may be necessary that I believe would come in phase 1B. The resulting document will contain the cultural history and evaluation of the areas known and potential sensitivity for cultural resources that might be affected by construction, and then further provide further recommendations for the subsequent 1B. And then 1B is the field investigation itself, which is necessary, as it says here, to determine the presence or absence of cultural resources in the probable impact areas. It goes further to say the areas subject to testing are selected based on the basis of data gathered in the 1A evaluation and the probable locations of ground disturbing activities. So it really starts with that, literature, research surveying effort, and then works its way into the field investigation.
And actually, Jim, could I chime in
Yes, please do.
couple of the things that our historian Nancy Kelly sent to us today are actually part of the literature search for Phase 1A, which included early deeds and early maps indicating that the name Mansakenning in the town goes back to the late 1680s. So that's part of what would be the literature search. And I'm sure there's more, but at least right now we have a couple of leads on what should be in that Phase 1A.
Do they have to find something in the Phase 1A to warrant the Phase 1B, or is it just both parts of one study?
1A and 1B typically go together. They are what triggers Phase 2, depending on what's found, both in the literature and in the field surveillance.
As an example, you may all recall the when they bought the ag parkland for the Thomas Thompson Sally Mazzarella Park, that additional land that they purchased, they did a Phase 1A and a 1B, although, and to some extent it wasn't necessary because for years that area had been cornfields for the Schuldorf farm, and a number of amateur archaeologists had been finding arrowheads, things like that forever. So it was required that the town undertake the Phase 2 study, and they came up with very, very significant artifacts which show that that area apparently was a major meeting ground for local tribes. It's the fact that it's the confluence of the Rhinebeck Hill and Landsman Hill suggested you would find something there, and they did. That's why that large area of that park is basically off limits to any development. It can be used just for, passive play, things like that, but it cannot be developed unless the town goes through the process of actually excavating all that's there. And that's a tremendously expensive project. And you also need to have a place for the artifacts you find to go. And right now we don't have that. The artifacts that were found, I believe, are still up at Bard. But Rhinebeck has been found in many different places to be significantly endowed with pre-contact artifacts, as well as the post-contact colonial and on artifacts. So this is by no means it's something we do for all National Register properties because of the historic nature of them. Very often things are found post-contact, obviously, on those properties. But on this one, our archaeologist we have on our committee, who is an actual professional archaeologist, because of the terrain, because of the site, because of the location, apparently there's also been some indications of trails that were used by local tribes through this area, through this particular property, that a 1A and a 1B are certainly called for under our law that we have in terms of historic preservation. So that's where we are right now. So I have a motion and a second, and yes, Melody.
Oh, I just want to jump ahead and say that in terms of understanding how these things work through the process, the actual identification of an important site does not mean it can never be developed, because toward the end of the process, you look towards mitigation. And in some cases, bringing in additional material or other things. The most important thing we're looking for here is to protect the resource and to protect the information. So it doesn't mean that it can never, ever be used or developed. So please don't think that asking for this precludes development in any way on the property. It just means it needs to be approached more carefully and with more information.
Thank you, Melody. Any further discussion on the motion? Edna, are you happy with the discussion?
I think it was brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim, and thanks, Melody. Okay, any further questions before we vote? Okay, all in favor of the Phase 1A and 1B being performed on this property, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
I actually, Michael, in this case, I'd like to ask for a voice recall.
Poll. Okay, I will poll the board. Delise,
Aye.
Melody,
Aye.
Edna,
Aye.
Kathy,
Aye.
Joe,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So we will move forward with that. I think at this point now, Gretchen, correct me, I believe that we will be continuing this public hearing to April 5th at some time. Jen?
Gretchen, you're muted.
Yes, sorry,
we-
6:55.
Okay, thank you. Could I hear a motion to continue this public hearing until April 5th at 6:55, please?
So moved, Melody.
Second?
Second, Elise.
Thanks, Delise. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 3 new applications. The first is with Joel Herm, special use permit and wetland permit to install at a refurbished dam site on the Landsman Kill a micro hydro generator.
Hi, Jim, do you want to give me a screen share or do you want to show the plan?
Nope, I will pull up the plan for you. I'm working on that right now.
I've got it ready to go if you don't.
And we've made a policy at the planning board. All materials need to come into the planning board
Okay.
in advance, and then,
Okay.
and then I'll show it
Fine.
for you. So, is this one the right one? Does this work?
Sure. Yeah, so this is a 10-acre property on Mill Road. Interestingly, the dam, which is at the southern end, which is going across the Landsman Kill, was put in 1889 to for hydroelectricity to power the Wilderstein Mansion. So we are proposing to put in attach actually a small turbine generator directly to the dam accessory structure and run the electricity up to our newly completed passive house. And all the electricity will be consumed within the house and not connected to the Central Hudson grid. And this allows us to not have to get a federal permit for hydroelectricity generation because we did put in a letter of intent to FERC some years ago to see if a small little hydro generator like this would be under federal jurisdiction, and they basically came back and said, yes, if you connect it to the grid, it triggers the Federal Power Act for the Commerce Clause. We would be affecting interstate commerce essentially by putting electrons onto the grid. And also, as we all know, the Landsman Kill flows directly into the Hudson River, which is US national water. And so that is also another trigger for FERC jurisdiction in combination with that Commerce Clause for regulation of hydroelectricity. But since it's not being connected to the grid, we don't have to go for a federal permit. And also, this particular dam is between 6 feet and 15 feet high, which precludes it from needing a protection of waters permit from the DEC. So basically, what we're proposing to do is just bolt on a small unit that's about 4 feet long and about 18 inches in diameter to, there it is, to the existing penstock that's going through the existing 130-year-old dam, and then do an underground cable up to the house.
And this shows it as it will be once the micro hydro generator is installed right there.
Yeah, correct.
Or
In
the
the upper,
shows it.
yeah, the upper image, you see it without, and then, you know, I photoshopped in an accurate photograph of the actual US-made turbine from Ohio. And you can see the outflow from the turbine generator would go right at the downstream toe of the dam.
Mhm.
And that's significant because in hydro facilities, it's often an environmental issue to have the diverted water from a hydro system be further downstream on a reach that could possibly, if the hydro facility was using all the water, that reach between the dam itself and where the outflow comes could be dry, which would be a bad thing for mussels and invertebrates and fish, of course. So this is kind of a beautiful, environmentally sound design because there's zero environmental reach between the dam itself and the outflow from the hydro system. We've heard a couple of neighbors had concerns about us putting in a hydro system because of possible noise. The decibel level at the spillway right now is around 90 on the C scale. At the property line, the code says you can't annoy your neighbor with anything over, I think it's 60 decibels. So at the property line, we are indeed below that, and certainly at the property line between the dam and the closest house, it's even further down, it's like 50 decibels. But again, the turbine doesn't make very much noise at all. It's really the sound of the beautiful spillway waterfall. That's a pre-existing condition, I guess you'd call it.
The ambient noise.
Ambient white noise.
Any questions for Joel?
This is Edna. It looks like
Hi.
a fascinating project. This small area, what keeps it from freezing in the winter?
Well, indeed, the pond impound just became clear. It's been, the pond has had up to 5 inches of ice this winter. In fact, we were skating on it. What happens with a dam, be it a beaver dam or this type of human dam, the water flow that's being drained from 25 square miles, or maybe a little bit less square miles to this point, is enough to go under the ice and up and over the spillway that you're seeing here in this picture. So it's always flowing. I mean, it's, if you would come out today and look upstream towards the spillway, it would look almost exactly like this picture. There's a lot of water coming through, especially now that the snow is starting to melt. The pond is elevation is probably up 2 inches or so. So you can't stop running water. and the intake that they put in 130 years ago is low enough. It's about 5 feet under the water surface, so that it never freezes. The pond never freezes solid, so there's always just a top layer of ice. Does that answer your question, Edna?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Other questions for Joel?
Michael, this is Jim. I have a couple
Anything-
comments. If no one else has a question.
Yes.
Okay, so found a couple things when I was reviewing this that I wanted to bring up. We're obviously looking at this as an accessory structure, and so I reviewed it in that in that vein. Couple quick things regarding the site plan. I didn't see topography on here. That's typically one of the things that we do require of all our site plans that come in. I understand that what's being disturbed really is the trenching for the cable. But that is typically something that we do require. And it kind of relates to my other comment on the site plan that I don't believe I saw silt fencing being proposed. And it looks like in the site visit will help, bring this to light a little bit more for those who go out. But it looked like the land might slope a bit toward the creek, which you'd expect. So I was thinking that some silt fencing is probably needed. And both the topography and silt fencing should be shown on the plan
Okay.
moving forward. A couple other quick things. I talked with Michelle Turk, the zoning administrator, about the location of this. The turbine itself is actually proposed to be on both Mr. Herm's property and the Mensch property adjacent. And because of that, this is as an accessory structure, doesn't meet the setback required because it's right on the property line. So Joel, that means you're going to have to go to the ZBA and ask for a rear yard setback variance to locate this right on the property line. You essentially have a 0-foot setback.
Well,
And that's a technicality that's in the law.
well, I wrote back to Michelle proposing that we all look at this as bolting on a device to an existing accessory structure, AKA the dam. And so, Jonathan mentioned I have a 50-year, not in perpetuity, 50-year easement for allowing me and Susan to put on a hydro generator on this particular dam.
Yep.
And
Yep. And I saw that, and I do have one comment about the easement really in a second here. But the easement and the agreement you have with Jonathan really has no bearing on the zoning law. So they're two different things. If Michelle says that it's an accessory, built onto the existing dam, then that would just be, I guess, a write-up that she'd need to provide to say that that's how she's going to be reviewing this. But when I last talked with her, she agreed, and when I talked with her last week, that this would unfortunately be an accessory structure that would need a variance. So if you want to catch up with her about that specifically, and we'll clarify that.
Will do.
That would be good. So two other quick ones regarding the easement. I did read the easement. Saw that you do have a 50-year duration of easement on there. But the part that I did want to check in on is that it said that the easement would remain in effect so long as it had not been abandoned for more than 2 years. I don't believe the easement's been abandoned. Lack of use is not technically abandonment of an
Correct.
easement. But given that it's been 6 years since you had that written up with Jonathan, I think it would be good if you could get in writing that he agrees that it hasn't been abandoned so that you don't run into an issue.
Correct.
If this were to be approved later. So if you can get something in writing, I think even just a simple email from him, the letterhead would be better. Something we can put in the file that shows that both parties agree it's still in place and hasn't been abandoned. Just make sure that we're all on the same page there.
Makes total sense, Jim.
And then my last comment on this is just that the application should be forwarded to the HAPAC, which I believe I have in the resolution. Yeah, it's in the resolution.
I'm sorry, what is that acronym?
It's the Historic Archaeological Preservation. Oh, Kathy, help me. I just messed it up.
Preservation Advisory Committee.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a review committee in town, and that is due to the location of the project being within the National Historic Landmark District.
I think also because of its relationship to Wilderstein. And a camp meeting ground on that property. So there are a couple of reasons why it's going to HAPAC.
So you all know, sorry, Michael?
Well, the dam itself, of course, is historic, goes back.
Yeah, and I indeed created a project with SHPO some years ago and showed them photographs and obviously the parcel ID, and I do have a letter back from them, which I thought I put in the application, maybe I didn't. That says, I could read it if you wish.
No, I believe it's in there.
I believe you did. It was in the application, Joel.
Okay.
This is a town committee referral. And it's a pretty common referral. So I just wanted to put that out there. But Joel, you'll get a copy of my notes, so you'll be able to see what I'm asking for, so that you can talk with Michelle or with Jonathan, you'll know exactly what I was looking for.
Okay.
And
Michael,
Joel, I did speak with Michelle this morning, and she actually has a determination letter. We discussed the different aspects, even if an easement had some effect upon setbacks, things like that. And it's her determination that the variance will be required for the rear yard setback. And she has a determination letter. I guess maybe she may have just written it up today. It may not have been sent out yet. But I did go in to
certainly
discuss
didn't receive
this
it.
morning.
Okay,
I can scan it and send it.
So what are the risks there on the going for a variance? What's the process there?
Well, you'll go to the ZBA to get the variance. I think the circumstances of this, the easement, the fact that you have, permission of the neighbor to work this through, the historic nature of the site and the function. Personally, I don't see why it should be a problem getting the variance. I'm sorry, getting the variance.
Okay.
Any other questions for Joel before I read what we have here as a procedural resolution? Okay, let me move on with this. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts as follows on the application by Joel Herm for site plan review, a special use permit and a wetland permit under Town Code Chapter 125 and Chapter 120, respectively, for construction of a micro hydro generator at 443 Mill Road in the RA10 Rural Agricultural Zoning District. We accept the application and supporting documents as adequate for further review by the planning board, its advisors, and the public. We're classifying the proposed action as type 2 under seeker, for which coordinated environmental quality review is precluded. We will schedule a public hearing on the application for April 5th at 6:40 and direct the clerk to undertake or otherwise cause the noticing and posting thereof in accordance with the requirements set forth in Town Code Chapter 125. Delegate planning board members who would like to go for a visit.
Edna will.
Okay. Well, I'll go. I'm familiar with the property. It's actually fascinating, and it's a fun visit. To
Great.
conduct a field visit to the project site and report their observations at the time of public hearing. In accordance with Town Code Chapter 9, refer the application to the Conservation Advisory Board for review and written comment concerning environmental factors. And in accordance with Town Code Chapter 118, refer the application to the Waterfront Advisory Committee for review and written comment regarding consistency with the LWRP. In accordance with Dutchess County Planning and Development 239 Planning Zoning Referral, refer it to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for review. In accordance with Town Code Chapter 125, refer the application to the HAPAC for review and written comment concerning historic and/or archaeological elements. And we authorize without prejudice to any information or comment that may be presented at the public hearing or may arise based on both the above cited field visit and referral, preparation of a working draft of an approvals resolution for the planning board's consideration on April 5th or as may be later timely. Could I hear a motion to approve?
So moved, Melody.
Second, Kathy.
Second. Thank you, Kathy. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Okay, Joel, we'll be getting in touch with you about setting up a site visit. We'll probably wait for a little more meltage before we try to hike out.
That's fine. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Take care. Okay, our next application is for Mike's Tree Service, Route 9, Site Plan Review Business Office. Is the applicant and/or the applicant's representative here?
We are. Mike.
Okay, would you like to take us through what it is you're proposing to do?
Yeah.
We can help as well, Mike, however you'd like to go about it.
Yeah, go for it, Seth. You know well.
Just one quick note, Jim, is Stephen Mazzarelli here? Has he been allowed in? Just out of curiosity. Is the architect?
I don't see that name.
Steve Burnaby from New York Planning.
There it is. Excellent. Good evening. Seth Stickle with Mark Rominski. Here tonight to discuss MRD Tree Services, Inc. and the development of a 0.995 acre parcel located on the west side of Route 9, northwest side of Route 9, just outside of the village of Rhinebeck in town. This, for anyone who doesn't know where this project is located, it is almost directly across from Williams Lumber. This is a group of, actually it's just on the south end of a group of about 25 lots that were created in about 1947, old pieces of Astor property that created what is this business corridor along both sides, the east and west side of Route 9. Mike has purchased the remaining property that is on the southwest side and is looking to develop that. This property is located in the Community Business South zoning district. It is an existing non-conforming lot. Bring that up because we wanted to note that the existing frontage is 168 feet along Route 9. Requirement is 200. And as a result, the maximum lot width we can attain here is 168 feet as well. And the requirement is 200 in the zoning district. So an existing non-conforming lot. The lot is about 168 feet of frontage and it is about 250 feet of depth to the west. Topography, as you can see here, from the central portion of the site drains mostly to the west-southwest. Currently, the entire site is a meadow kind of grassed area. It was brush and it has been maintained since Mike has purchased it. There's an existing kind of tree line and natural buffer that exists along mostly the southern portion of this site. The western portion is actually mostly just the tree canopy from trees that are located actually west of the property line there. Jim, if we could move to sheet 2. It's a little busy, but hopefully we can zoom in. So here is the proposed site plan. Like I had mentioned, MRD Tree Services Inc. is proposing a 70 by 50 building, a 3,500 square foot footprint. Mike's Tree Service plans to utilize 20 square feet on the first floor and 1,190 square feet on the second floor. This building is also proposed with a business and professional office space for rent. That is just over 1,000 square feet on the first floor. What I'd like to just note is that we come off of Route 9 because this is a commercial property. We are working with the New York State DOT to approve a commercial entrance, a little bit larger of a footprint that everyone's accustomed to with this commercial type of development. That comes in into the property and immediately enters to 6 parking spaces, a handicap space accommodating and 5 additional spaces accommodating the office. This would be parking for what would be the leasable office space. It also for the handicap transition ramp that we have for sidewalk. The building is actually sidewalked along the northern and the eastern sides. And there is a little bump out front porch. So access is possible through that area. Handicap access is possible through that front door area. One thing I'd like to note here is just to the left as you come in would be the location of a planter bed with the sign in it. We're going to make a change that I haven't noted here. That sign will be rotated parallel to the road. And there is a note here that says that is double-sided. So I want to eliminate that double-sided, obviously square footage of a sign. We want to make sure that we meet the requirements. With a double-sided sign, we won't be able to do that. So that's just one change I wanted to note. Let's talk about some signage. We're proposing some lighting here. It's mostly lighting for what would be the necessary area for the office parking specifically. So we're looking at 3 pole-mounted fixtures to illuminate that area and the door that they would lead to, as well as a door-mounted fixture in that area. There is one other door located on the southwest side of the building that will also have an overhead door. And then on the rear of the building are 3 larger garage bay doors. And those 3 doors will have overhead wall-mounted lighting on them that will be able to light the rear area service yard. So as I had mentioned, the office, mainly if you're renting and utilizing this office or professional space, you'll be coming in and parking in the first 6 spaces and then going into the doors. For Mike's tree service and utilizing both his vehicle storage and equipment storage, as well as a place for he and his employees to arrive, we'll be going through what is a gated area. There's a proposed fence line around the western portion of this property from about the back of the building all the way to the west. That's proposed for security purposes, based on what Mike has desired for security, and as well as just to provide a little bit of screening from that back area. Along the fences facing along Route 9, we have proposed some landscaping so that we could additionally screen those areas. But once we move into the back western portion of the property, that is where Mike will utilize his parking area for his vehicles, his staff parking, and most of the ingress and egress for that tree service will be in the back portion of the property. There's also a proposed storage shed, just a small storage shed, 18 by 18. Our refuse containers will be in the back area here, screened. Grading plan is fairly simple. We are maintaining the existing conditions. However, we are sensitive to adjoining properties and any adjoining boundaries. So we have taken most of the drainage, and it will be for what is the eastern half of the building, will be sheet flowing down to a small depressed area, which is located in the southeast corner of the property. And on the rear of the building, the west portion of the lot, we will be sheet flowing to another small depressed area where we can manage our stormwater before we exit the property. And as far as additional landscaping goes, one of the other things that we are doing is we are going to maintain a portion of that existing tree line along the southern boundary on the opposite, on the southern side of our fence, so that we might be able to screen along that side as well.
Applications to the DOT and the health department.
Currently, we've made applications to New York State DOT, and we are working with them on approval for the entrance, as I mentioned, and as well, we are working with Dutchess County Department of Health for the water supply and wastewater disposal on the site. The wastewater disposal on the site is located in the southwest corner of the property. It's a very small use here. We're talking a maximum of 10 employees, so it's not a very large sanitary disposal system. Lastly, one of the items that we're requesting here is, and we have prepared an application and we have submitted at the same time, is a variance for the front yard setback. In this zone, the front yard setback is required to be 60 feet. If we were to look at a lot of the buildings along this existing pathway, we note that anything that's under the 60 feet of zoning comes in around like just about 40 feet. There are various buildings. We have a sheet that's included in this package that details that. But the neighboring parcel, specifically Mavis, which is just to the north of our property, is 45 feet off of the front yard setback. And so we'd like to match that to try to make the corridor consistent, as well as it does, because of the limited existing non-conformance of the lot width, it does help us provide a little bit of additional rear yard area that is useful for the project. At this point, I think I might like to turn it over to Stephen, if he's with us, to discuss the architecture. And Jim, I don't know, I believe those plans are in our package.
Yep, on the in this one. Just have to find them. Oh, here we go. Okay. me 1 second. I will bring those up.
Thank you.
Which one did I do?
So do you want to start with the renderings?
Whichever way you'd like to do it, Stephen, go ahead, and if he has floor plans, I'm not quite sure. I think he's just pulling them up at the moment.
What would you like to look at? Let me know. Bring that up. You
Well,
want
this,
that?
right there, so we can start with the render. Great job describing the building floor plans. The proposed structure is going to be wood frame structure. Going to have 2 stories at the front. As Seth mentioned, Mike's offices will be on the 2nd floor. We have a proposed retail space for the 1st floor. We plan on using architectural shingles. We're going to be using a composite, a cement board siding. So the lower half will be board and batten vertical siding as shown there. The upper half above the horizontal band is going to be a horizontal siding as well. And the front porches will be a stained wood structure. So that'll be natural wood there. And then we have a stone base.
This is the northern perspective. So this would be for people traveling south on Route 9. This would be the visual from that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim, maybe we could just switch to the other rendering.
Yep. There, it should be up now.
There's the, this is the view if you're traveling north on Route 9, looking into the property. And do you happen to have the floor plans and elevations, Jim?
I believe so. Let me, oh, here we go. Just have to switch through different programs here.
Apologize.
All right, this should be up now.
So the floor on your left-hand side there shows vehicle storage going to in the back on the floor. A shared, I'd call it break room. And then it shows 2 toilets, one for Mike's staff and then one for the retail staff. And then the 2nd floor on the right-hand side there has the stairs going up, Mike's offices, and a little mezzanine for him to be able to look out and, you know, look at his truck, speak to his employees while, you know, work is going on.
Any questions for the applicant's representatives?
Well, I don't have a question. I just have a comment and or a suggestion. I would think we'd want to look back at the design standards for Rhinebeck in terms of compatibility of architecture and ask them to take a look at that again and see if this really fits into our guidelines.
You feel it does not, Melody?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It looks a little bit Adirondack to me. And have a wonderful set of design guidelines that I always encourage new applicants to look at in terms of the design standards for what we bring into Rhinebeck.
I have a quick question about the fencing in the back. I noticed on the plans there's a comment around barbed wiring. Could you maybe touch on that? I don't see that displayed in any of the pictures that were shown.
I believe it's the label on the fence that may say that, right? And the detail does not have it. Is that what you're saying, Sean?
Yes.
Okay. In discussion with Michael about this, we had talked about security needs, and he did mention a 5-foot fence with a foot of barbed wire might be necessary for this. I would let Mike speak to that in any way that he might want to, if he has anything to add.
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to do that because of security issues. The trucks oftentimes have equipment sitting on them overnight, and to deter would-be thieves from entering the property. That was something that I thought would be appropriate.
I wonder if there are some alternatives to that.
Yeah,
Have you considered any?
I think that should be explored.
I'm not aware of barbed wire being used on other buildings along Route 9 there, the commercial buildings. Fences, yes, although a lot of them don't have fences, but not barbed wire, which strikes me as, quite honestly, inappropriate for the center of the commercial portion of the town. That really is the commercial center of the town, that portion of Route 9. You could certainly put a 6-foot fence along the back and along the sides. And but I think barbed wire is not something that I would be comfortable with myself.
We'll certainly explore some alternatives to that.
Well, we should explore the alternatives.
I wasn't thinking of razor wire either.
I mean, there are so many electronic systems. I really think it needs to be looked into.
Yeah, so this is Jim. I had a comment on this, and most of it, has been stated already that, most of the businesses along here don't even have fencing, and the few that do don't appear to have barbed wire. I do think it will be much different than what's there now. I think it's not something we necessarily want to see on the gateway into the village and along one of the main routes into town. And I don't believe it really meets the intent of the CBS zoning district, as detailed in section 125.15, that talks about looking at, site development and promoting architectural design that's compatible with the historic character of the village and town of Rhinebeck and things like that. So I don't see the barbed wire being compatible with what we're looking for in this part of town. And even the fencing alone is going to be unique to what's, along this section of Route 9, somewhat unique.
Appreciate your comments. We will look into some alternatives to that.
Were there discussions during the pre-application meeting about architecture and design standards, Melody?
I'm going to confess to not really remembering whether we actually had the elevations at the pre-conference meeting. I'm not sure. I can't confess to remembering or not. Pardon me?
No, the elevations were not involved during the pre-conference meeting.
Well, thank you, because I thought I was losing my mind. But no. My only comment is we try to really strive to look at those design guidelines. It's a very good document. And we strive to have architecture compatible with what's unique to Rhinebeck, not just because it's beautiful. I'm not disputing the quality of the design. I'm disputing the quality of how it fits into Rhinebeck.
Do you have other comments or questions for the applicant or the applicant's representatives?
I was wondering what kind of equipment it will be parked in back.
I'll take a brief shot at that, and maybe Mike can add to it if he'd like to. As I had mentioned, the 6 vehicle parking spaces in the front portion of the development are for just the leasable office space. The rear portion of the project will be where Mike and his employees park their personal vehicles when they arrive during the day, and where the vehicles that are used for the tree service building will be parked. So that is trucks and trailers that are involved in any part of a tree service operation. So those spaces are allocated for in size to accommodate that, as well as their placement.
So might there be the sort of lifts that you often see used in tree services? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the boom trucks. Yes, they would certainly. Yeah, definitely. They would definitely be there.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Mike could confirm that. But I would say yes, there will be most likely any kind of a boom truck. Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly have a bucket truck and that would be back there, yeah.
Can I ask a question to refresh my memory? I mean, we talked to people in terms of pre-conference. I don't remember, and I could be wrong, that part of this building was going to be leasable office space. Did I miss that in the pre-conference meeting?
I don't remember that either, Melody. This is Jim. Our pre-conference mostly focused on the use and whether or not the use is even permitted in here. And that obviously went to Michelle. So that's been addressed. But I agree. I didn't even catch when I was looking at this in my initial review here that it was actually rental space, and was going to ask what the intent is for rental down there. I believe anyone who comes into a rental space will probably need to come in for review for the use of that space and be limited.
I have no recollection. I have no recollection of this application including additional rental space.
No, and that raises other issues. You had mentioned that you were going to change the size of the sign, which I had obviously caught as something that was you need to be addressed. But if you're going to have more than one use in here, that actually can change the sign that's permitted for multiple uses. You could have a multiple use sign permitted on site. So the addition of that retail, which I didn't realize was going to be in there, can have some implications or potential changes to the site overall too, in terms of what you do and how you do it. But I agree, Melanie. I don't remember the discussion of the retail.
Just to ask further this retail question, that space would not be cohesive necessarily with the tree service, right? It's a totally separate business at your discretion. Is that the vision?
Yes, it'd be a separate business, yes.
So one comment I would just make, if that become personally, and going along, Melody's suggestion about architecture, which I think is also very important in this, it's just that it doesn't read to me, if that was the direction at all, with retail, where it has the level of windows and what is the purpose of that. I think if that's part of this, that has to also be considered in the architecture as well.
I'm not so sure that retail is the best word for it. It's going to be a professional space.
You need to clarify that it is not a retail space. Yeah. This is an office or a business, a professional office, business. It's not a retail space.
But it's the first time we've heard of this. So it's a new add-on to the application.
It's something that's going to have to go to Michelle, to the zoning enforcement officer, to review to see whether or not it can be permitted, since this primarily is being proposed as a tree service, which I understand with the office and vehicles and whatnot, as opposed to an office building. So there may be some question about the ability to have actually two separate uses of the property. One as basically the headquarters and storage and whatnot area for the tree service, and another offering space for rent to other businesses that are not associated or not part of the tree service. I think that's something that Michelle is going to have to take a look at.
I don't believe we provided it here, but we have asked Michelle for formal determination on this, and she has provided us with a letter. I do believe that the secondary use of this property is in that letter, but I will make sure to provide that to the board.
Yeah, please do.
It was not something.
Seeing that letter.
I was going to say it was not something that was presented to us at the pre-conference meeting. So
we weren't at the pre-conference meeting. So Mike and the architects were at the pre-conference meeting.
Okay.
Can anyone, so Steve, were you there? Can you speak to that issue?
Yeah, I'm here. So our pre-conference meeting was to determine the feasibility of having his business on this lot in zone. So we did not spend a lot of time on elevations or floor plans because we weren't sure. There was a huge question as to whether this was a permitted use in this zoning district.
Right.
So we had gone back and forth with the zoning administrator. The night of our pre-conference meeting, actually, when that took place, I don't know if you guys remember or not, but we talked about the validity of this even happening. And what I had said was, listen, we had spoken to Shell. It is a permitted use. And since we've made the application and we're here, can we go through it and get a letter from her stating its permissibility? As far as there being a note as far as another rental space on the first floor, I don't know that. I'd have to go back and find some drawings that we submitted to see what was submitted for that meeting. So I don't know if that was part of it or not. I know, as Seth mentioned, we provided parking for it. I realized that, if Mike was building his building here, he's only entitled to put his own space up there, is what I'm hearing. And give me if it's not all coming through, it's very broken up. So that's what I have to offer at this. And I do have several questions as well before we get off the line.
I have one other question. Is there another site where these vehicles are currently?
Yeah, I keep some of them at my home, some on my customer's property. Yeah, those are the.
Where do you currently maintain them?
What's that?
Where do you currently maintain the vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, I maintain them at my house, a friend's property who allows me to keep one or two there, and a couple there.
Do you expect to be maintaining these vehicles? I'm just thinking of oil, stuff like that for this property.
No, I mostly have oil changes done at local garage up in Red Hook. I don't really do oil changes. They get done once a year. Mostly be minor maintenance done there, tire changes, light bulbs, maintenance.
So you do not expect to be doing any kind of maintenance on vehicles or
just minor maintenance.
Your operation at this
No
facility?
maintenance, but just minor stuff.
Can we, in the process of moving forward, get a description of what minor means?
Sure, I can write down the activities that would be appropriate.
That would be very helpful.
Sure.
And forgive me if you already said this, but how many total vehicles, at one time would you imagine stored on the premise?
8.
So one thing I would just also consider maybe in the retail integration is just, how would it visually look if there's another business operating out of there, if there's so many vehicles, just as they interconnect, if they're separate industries.
Well, the vehicles would be in the back, and the large vehicles would be in the back, and the other business would be in the front. They would be separate.
Okay, so they're not really visible.
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
We have other questions or comments at this point?
Michael, this is Jim. I had a couple if no one else does, but if someone else does, go ahead.
No.
I wanted to ask, Michael always knows about these things. There was, I think, a letter from Michelle saying that this is not a contractor's yard. This does not constitute a contractor's yard.
Correct. She has determined that it's a business service not listed elsewhere.
And so do you know offhand what the definition of a contractor's yard is? In other words, can we understand why this is not a contractor's yard?
Well, I kind of thought it was a contractor's yard, but Michelle doesn't think so, but let me see if I can.
Right, and in the end, that's what matters. Michelle's, has determined that it, so regardless of the definition, that's been her determination.
Yeah.
At this point.
This was discussed.
This was the focus of the pre-app meeting, which is why a number of these things that Melody has raised, weren't discussed. We've pretty much focused on the permissibility of the use and the fact that Michelle would need to make a determination.
Yeah, I would just add, I think it'd be helpful for the entire board if we had a lot more details of what's actually going to be happening, especially in the back area. I'm just looking at long-term concerns of, vehicles and just how that looks from the outside.
The back of the area is primarily for parking. which again is going to be screened by the building. We have 6-foot high fence, and most of the time the vehicles are out during the day. So when they're back, they come back at the end of the day. In the evening is when they park there. So theoretically, you're not going to see them there during the day, or you're going to see very little of it that is left there during the day due to the screening and the fact that we're hoping all of Mike's trees are working every day.
Jim, could you just help me out for a moment with your cursor at the northwest corner of the building is where the fence starts. Notice that the fence line goes across that area to the north, goes to the west, down around the back portion of the building, around the south side, and then comes up along the other side of the building. We have screening trees proposed to be planted along all of the fence except for the gate that fronts Route 9, and we're leaving existing tree line along the whole entire south border. So the real view shed towards the back of this would be towards the back of Davis's building, which it's a hard place to get to. So just to clarify and just add a little more context with the fencing and the screening. And as noted, just to pick up on Delisa's comment, all of the, for the professional office building use, retail, all of that would be located in front, and all of Mike's vehicle storage and where his employees and all the activity would take place in the back behind the screened gated areas. And I apologize, it's not a retail use, just an office or business.
Just for a quick visual, is the picture that we see, the landscaping that we see in the rendering, is that the landscaping that you're talking about? Is that the screening from the?
It is representative, yes.
Okay. So something similar to what we see there, like in size and shape and so forth.
It is representative
Okay,
of
thank
similar types of trees, yes.
Seth, can you give us some actual photographs of the perimeter of the property and the screening that there's now and projected what you think will be there?
I'm sure we could do that.
Thank you. That would be very helpful.
One last comment or question really is this the property that is directly next to Mavis? And there's trees to the south, but it'd be wide open to the Mavis side, which is why it looks like you're adding some additional screening by that parking area?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other comments or questions for the applicant or the applicant's representative?
Yeah, this is Jim again. So you guys have heard the comment about the sign. If you're going to have more than one use, that could change your sign. You could have a multi-use sign, and obviously we'll talk more about the uses. You've heard the discussion about the fence. Just a couple other ones that I did want to mention. The EAF form indicated there are wetlands on the site or in close proximity to it. I didn't see those. Can you clarify that? Is that misstated, or maybe it's just that it's on the adjacent property? It's not on this property, right?
I believe it does say on or adjoining.
Right.
So they would be adjoining.
Right. I just wanted to clarify that's adjoining, not on your site. I didn't see anything
That is correct.
Okay. Let's see what else. Oh, the other comment I had is I'm not an engineer. You guys have looked at this. I'm a little concerned about the location of the proposed well being right up in the corner of the driveway in Route 9. And that I see that being a significant location for snow storage. And if you push lots of snow up there and all the salt that comes off of that, especially off Route 9, I'm just concerned based on things I've read going on up in the Adirondacks and things with salt intrusion into wells close to the road. Maybe it's not the best location. And if you want to keep it there, I'm just thinking some type of protection with some bushes or things that keeps the plow from plowing snow and salt and things right over that well would certainly be something to consider. Because I see that when you look at the whole site as one of the prime locations to push that snow, for the front part of the site there. So just thinking about it, I know you've looked into it, and well locations are can be tough and tricky, but it just kind of stood out to me as it kind of caught my eye.
Jim, this is Mark. Regarding that well location and location of the on-site sewage disposal. It's also driven by the adjoining wells and septics.
Yep.
And in this case, the location of the septic for Mavis Tire drove that location. So and certain separation distances are required, which, like I said, drove that location. So we will note that and make some special, we'll provide, protection of that water source. We'll make sure that water source is protected, but it's, because of the limited area of the site, it's less than an acre. We're hamstrung a bit for location of on-site water and wastewater disposal. So that's basically, it was the septic system on Mavis Tire that drove that location.
Yeah, no, I know you're pretty, it's pretty tough on the site, but
Yeah.
If we can get some protection for that to make sure it's not damaged directly by a plow blade or, pushing lots of salt contaminated snow on it, I just think that would be good.
Okay.
Figure out something else to do with it. And then, finally, I just wanted to applaud you for the use of rain gardens and self-sustaining plantings and things. I'd love to see that kind of stuff on sites. I think it's fantastic and it's lower maintenance, which should help in the long run in terms of maintenance costs. So glad to see that and glad to see you put it in there.
Thank you. Also, at this time, I just going through our records. On December 10th, we did pen off a letter to Michelle Turek about, I'll just paraphrase some things. We enclosed a copy of the sketch plan, certainly not as developed as what you're seeing here, and just a brief identification of the property and acreage, et cetera, and the owner, and then making a request for formal determination from the zoning administrator regarding the proposed use of the site for forestry and business or professional office. The site is intended to be used as a base of operation for Mike's Tree Service, a tree care company providing off-site services such as pruning, removal, plant health care, cabling, bracing, transplanting, consulting, fertilization, and lighting protection. On-site uses include forestry vehicle storage, an office space for the owner of Mike's Tree Service, and a leasable business / professional office space. The office space will be used by the owner of Mike's Tree Service for management of the business and employees, and then approximately 5 employees from Mike's Tree Service will utilize the site. At this time, it has been identified for leasable business / professional office space. No retail operations or processing of forestry material will be proposed at the site. And then basically we're running down, so as Seth mentioned before, bulk regulation information and how our lot is substantial in some of those aspects. And then also to that is we received a determination letter from Michelle on the 14th of December. And that determination letter says, I have reviewed your request for determination of use for the above noted property. The property is located in the Community Business South zoning district. The proposed business service is an allowed use with site plan approval from the planning board. You will need to contact planning board secretary Gretchen Smith to arrange for pre-application conference. If you have any questions regarding this determination, please give me a call. So we did send, a request to Michelle for determination of, the uses that we presented here this evening. And so she has signed off on that.
Okay, I can ask and just get confirmation, a copy of the letter for our files as well, so that we know.
Yeah, I'll send, I didn't want to send it tonight, Michael. I know we can't submit materials, but you'll have all that in the morning. I'll send that, make sure that you and Gretchen have all that, and Jim have all that information in the morning.
Okay, thank you. That'll be helpful. Anything else before I read the procedural resolution? Okay, here goes. Uh-oh.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
Just questions, regarding the architecture. I couldn't see with the screen who was speaking. And as far as the, whether the design town standards or whatnot. So just, in our thoughts, we have Williams right across the street, which has a gable roof. It has a covered porch. It has columns. It also has another building alongside of it that's got vertical siding on it. So we've read design standards. If there's something there specific that you're saying doesn't meet, if you could let me know so we're not spinning our wheels here. What is it specifically that doesn't fit with the design standards?
I think the one thing I would mention is that Williams was there many years in that building before the design standards were drafted and adopted by the town board. So they are
Sure.
definitely a pre-existing structure.
Absolutely.
And I would agree that you should not go by buildings that were built after, or no, excuse me, before the design standards. You should go back to the design standards.
Oh, okay. I have a resolution. Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts as follows on the application by Mike's Tree Service for site plan review under Town Code Chapter 125, respectively for construction of a business office on Route 9 within the Community Business South zoning district. For accepting the application and supporting documents is adequate for further review by the planning board, its advisors, and the public, and classifying the proposed action as type 2 under seeker, for which coordinated environmental quality review is precluded. We will schedule a public hearing on the application for April 5th at 6:45 and direct the clerk to undertake or otherwise cause noticing and posting thereof, and delegating planning board members to do the site visit. Who would like to do the site visit?
I'll go, Joe.
I'm happy to go. Sean.
Sean and Joe, okay.
Oh, no. Michael, can you go as well?
I can.
Thank you.
We three will go and do a field visit to the project site and report our observations at the time of public hearing. In accordance with Town Code Chapter 9, we will refer the application to the Conservation Advisory Board for review and written comment concerning environmental factors. In accordance with the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development 239, we'll refer to the application to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for review. And in accordance with Town Chapter 125, refer the application. Why are we referring it to the HAPAC for review and written comment? I don't believe that's necessary.
Well, the EAF said that it was in or adjacent to potentially sensitive areas. I think it's related to the large parcel of the Rhine owned to the south.
The Jesselson
east,
parcel.
right,
Yes,
but it-
certainly referred. I assume what we'll get back is that they don't see any potential issues there. I know that land has for many, many, many years was cornfields and has been under agricultural use until rather recently. Then I think it was hay, and now I'm not sure what they're doing with it.
I think in terms of the precedent we're setting, we should refer it to them. And if
Okay.
they find no interest, they'll return that to us.
Okay, very good.
I think that sounds good.
And we will authorize without prejudice to any information or comment as may be presented at the public hearing or may arise based on both the above cited site visits, referral, preparation of a working draft of approvals resolution for the planning board's consideration on April 5th or as may later be timely. Oof. Could I hear a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Delise.
Thank you, Delise. Second?
Second, Kathy.
Very good. Thank you, Kathy. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Mark, I'll coordinate with Sean and Joe and we'll set up a convenient time for all of us to get together.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And Michael and Jim, just a question. So obviously our next meeting is with the ZBA.
Yes.
And so so Jim, help me out here. I mean, type 2 action, right? So does that allow the ZBA to, how does that work? How does that work, scheduling and approval wise between the planning and zoning? If you could help me out with that.
Well, Michael, you say this quite a bit, but they run concurrently, and then we would just need to wait for their finding in order for us to be able to do the approval, right, Michael? And we'll get a referral from them as well.
Correct.
Okay, I
I'll,
just get to clarify that.
I'll send them the procedural too, so that they know that the seeker's been determined, because that's what they'll look for
Yeah.
to move
Thank you,
forward.
Gretchen.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you sooner than later.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
We have one final new application, Scott Lyons, 6961 Route 9 minor subdivision. I think this, I'm guessing Marie is the one.
I am, and I'm here, Michael.
Okay. I guess once we get the map up, the site plan up. Okay. Okay, Marie, you want to walk us through this?
Yeah, you're looking at a pretty simple 2-lot subdivision. Both lots have frontage on Route 9. The one lot, if I'm looking at it correctly, the flag lot has frontage of 90 feet where 40 feet, I believe, is required. And then the other lot has frontage of 190 plus 50, 200, over 240 feet. And that would meet the minimum requirement for a standard lot. The lot 1A is already developed. It has a dwelling on it, a barn on it. The land currently belongs to Keith Gibson. The applicant, Scott Lyons, would like to buy the property and build another house on the property. And that would be the reason for the creation of Lot 1B. We've taken a look at the previously prepared subdivision, and we're working with some of the with the subdivision that I have done. And we had previously located some wetlands and the flood zone for this property. So we were able to determine that at least 4 acres is high and dry on Lot 1B, which I think 3/4 of a minimum lot size would be 3.75 acres would be required. Mr. Lyons has had an engineer out to look at the site and can find a building site within that 4-acre high and dry location for Lot 1B. We show a proposed easement so that the owner, as I say, the same owner would probably own both lots, or at least to begin with. So an easement wouldn't be necessary because you don't have an easement over your own property since you already have all the rights that are concurrent with that ownership. But in the event that he decided to sell one lot or the other, there would be a shared driveway and a driveway maintenance agreement provided so that the current driveway could be in use for both proposed parcels. I did ask the applicant when we were out there locating the sheds recently, and we show the 50-foot side yard setbacks. The sheds, because they're accessory structures, only need to be 37.5 feet from the property line, and they meet that requirement. We show the building envelope would be the 50-foot side yard setback. So I had asked him, did he want one shed on each property? Because when we first drew our proposed line, which was the initial submission that I sent to the planning board, the line kind of went straight through it. It wound up, the line almost touched both sheds. One was on each side. And when I did talk to Mr. Lyons, he said that, yeah, one could be on one line, one could be on the other. So that's the reason for the angle in the property line. It probably, if he wanted both sheds on the same property, could change that slightly, but to get the thing going, this is what we've presented.
Okay. I guess there are a number of waivers that I think you asked for in the application. And I think the more significant one was the Department of Health approval for the water and sewage disposal systems on the 2 properties. And as you know, that's been quite a challenge. Dave Pearson's had a number of discussions with me about this at this point. And in essence, what we're being asked to do is to create two lots. And of course, they have to be buildable for the planning board to do that. The lot with the existing house, apparently, as I understand it, has a SDS, but it was not built to health department standards nor approved, and they're not entirely sure where it is. And I do believe that the engineer is working on the other proposed lot, but it hasn't yet been submitted to the health department for their review. At
Well,
least it
usually,
wasn't as of a couple days ago.
I'm sorry, Michael, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's
Usually
okay.
can't submit to the health department until you have a preliminary approval. They don't want to approve a septic system on one lot. So until you went into them with a preliminary approval, they're not going to review a system for lot 1B. Certainly we've had engineers write feasibility letters before that say that based on their soil tests, a Board of Health approval can be gotten. And usually on larger lots, certainly, you know, this one's a little, like you say, it's a little bit of a different situation here because of the wetlands and the, well, not so much the wetlands, but the flood zone.
The floodplain.
Yeah.
Okay,
And as
at
far
this
as
point,
go ahead.
preliminary approval generally is for major subdivisions, not for minor subdivisions. And obviously, the big question here is the ability to get, you know, approvable SDSs on certainly on both sites. That's part of the buildability. And I know it's challenging. I know that the floodplain takes up, you know, a very significant portion of the existing property. There's no question there. And I have spoken with Dave about it, and there, I guess, apparently there is still some issues about trying to come up with an approvable system for Keith's, you know, current existing residents. And as long as that remains a problem, that an engineering letter stating that it can happen apparently hasn't been submitted or accepted by the health department for that. Because of the problems that they're having there, that kind of leaves us in a position where I believe 5 acres and under usually requires an engineered plan, whereas 5 acres or bigger would allow you to do just a letter from an engineer. Now, both lots are bigger, except the dry portions of them, certainly on the proposed 1B lot, obviously is under 5 acres. Keith's is larger than that, but apparently they're having significant problems coming up with a way to put in an acceptable septic system and reserve field. So quite frankly, I'm not comfortable myself with proceeding to any sort of approval until at least there's some indication that the health department's going to be willing to approve, particularly on Keith's property. So that seems to be the one that's causing the biggest headaches right now.
Okay, and I'm trying, I know I had asked Scott who his engineer was. I believe it's somebody from Ulster County. I don't know the name right off the top of my head, but I can certainly, go back to them and say, this is what the planning board has said. I guess what I would be wondering if there's any other concerns or issues at this point that we should be addressing prior to coming back with at least what you would want to see then is, like you say, you're more concerned about lot 1A.
That seems to be the one that's actually having more problems than the other one.
Yeah. Now, when you say he's
From my
having
discussions
problems,
with Dave.
is that only because he never went through the proper channels? Because I didn't think there was an issue with it being designed, just that he didn't do it that way. And that now they have to design one that would meet the current conditions.
I believe that's part of the situation there, yes. I know Dave Pearson has some real concern about this going forward currently, given some of the issues that they're bumping into.
Okay. I know when we had the pre-application meeting, I didn't remember any of this being, I guess we hadn't really looked at that part of it yet.
At that point, we hadn't really looked at it because, well, we hadn't had the pre-application meeting yet.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions, Jim, other members of the planning board?
So this is Jim. Regarding the waivers, obviously that's something we will discuss. I don't believe you actually need a coastal assessment form. You're not within the LWRP area. It actually is south of 9G. So that's a waiver I don't believe you actually need.
Okay.
So we can just knock that one off. The other ones, obviously, we'll discuss. And then Marie, I'm confident that the lot lines you put in and things like that all make sense. But given the shape of the flag lot you've proposed and the way that the code is written about how there has to be adequate area behind the 400-foot lot width line, which you've shown on there. I was just wondering if you can provide just in writing that, when you go and look at that section of the code regarding the flag lot standards, just maybe put a paragraph in writing stating that this is how it's met, that the adequate area is there behind that 400-foot lot width line you're showing there, just because it is pretty constrained and it's 4 acres and you've got the intermittent stream and the other stream. Just something in writing that says that we do meet that flag lot section. I think
Okay.
would be good to just to know for the record, having the file.
Okay.
I think you meet, like I said, in my letter, and you'll get a copy of it. I've said you meet most of them, but I think it'd be good just to have some verification from you on a couple of those items.
Basically, what you're saying, you have to have 5 acres once you get beyond that 400-foot lot width. It's a 5-acre zone. You have to meet the minimum lot size beyond the point at which you meet the minimum lot width.
Right. Yeah. The area and bulk table elements. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So we can just get that in writing. That would be good to have for the file.
Okay.
I have a quick question. When it says high and dry, does that mean that it is totally outside any buffers as well as any wetlands?
I always thought the buffer was part of, it could be considered high and dry. You can't build within it, but it's not a wetland and it's not underwater. So that would be part of the high and dry, is my understanding.
So, okay, so that includes buffers.
Yeah, you've only got the buffer on the lot 1A, that 100-foot adjacent area that goes alongside of the wetlands. And yeah, for I can't really tell you how long it is because I could put a scale on my map, but I don't have a scale next to me. But yeah, it would include the area that's in the 100-foot adjacent area, but you've got 9.61 acres. So it's certainly probably not more than half an acre that's in the adjacent area.
Other questions for Marie?
I'm just curious, what is the topography difference, kind of when you get to the middle of that site? And the only reason I ask is because some of our storms have just been so much bigger and, a lot more water flowing through. And given that this is a main branch, or is the, was this the Rhinebeck Hill, I think?
The Rhinebeck
Hill,
yes.
Coming through here, with real water flowing through it. I looked online, it looked like it's only a couple feet from kind of the edge of the stream to the high point on the lot. And I'm just, it's not necessarily in the code. I'm just concerned that if we do get major storms, that this property could have some issues between that and the intermittent stream, in terms of being surrounded by water or even inundated on a large storm like we have with, Irene or Lee or something like that. So I'm just curious, what is the difference? Do you know off the top of your head?
Well, I mean, I have the 156-foot contour. Are you talking about what it goes higher than the 156-foot contour?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because the contour, I can't point, where you have the line, yeah, right where you've got the marker there, the 156-foot contour goes from the west side to the east side. And yeah, that would be it. So how much higher it goes than that, I would have to pull out my old map, which I don't.
Yeah, so kind of where you'd expect the building to go. I'm just curious if it's quite a bit higher, or if it's just a couple feet, just because, like I say, we've had these bigger storms.
Yeah, I will pull that out and let you know. It might be on the old file map 8853A, because that might be, and I had a copy of that around too. I might have had the topography on the old map. That's where we got the contour from.
Okay.
I don't want to leave the meeting and go look for it. I know it's around somewhere.
Like I say, from by code perspective, it may not make a difference, but it may be something to discuss and just make sure we record for the record that.
Yeah. I know I provided a copy of that map with the submission.
Okay,
like
maybe
maybe in there.
Okay.
But I'll check on it.
All right, thank you. That's it for me, Michael.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I have a procedural resolution. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board hereby acts as follows on the application by Scott Lyons for a minor subdivision under Town Code Chapter 101 within the RC5 Rural Countryside Zoning District, accept the application and supporting documents as adequate for further review by the planning board, its advisors, and the public. And we're classifying the action as type 2 under seeker. We're scheduling a public hearing on the application for April 5th at 6:50 PM and directing clerk to otherwise undertake or otherwise cause the noticing and posting thereof. And who would like to be the people doing this site visit? How about maybe
I'll
Delise
go,
and Ellen?
Michael. Yeah, I'll go.
Delise? Okay, who will go with Delise?
I'll go.
Kathy? Okay. To conduct, I mean, I shouldn't do all of them because I get all the fun. To conduct a field visit to the project site and report their observations at the time of public hearing. In accordance with Town Code Chapter 9, refer the application to the Conservation Advisory Board for review and written comment concerning environmental factors. And we authorize without prejudice to any information or comment that may be presented at the public hearing or may arise based on both the above cited field visit and referral, preparation of a working draft of an approvals resolution for the planning board's consideration on April 5th, or as may be later timely. Okay, could I hear a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Edna.
Thank you.
Second, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Very good. Okay, Marie, Delise and Kathy will get in touch with you about the site visit.
Okay.
All right, well, that's all I have for tonight, everyone. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to say? Our next meeting will be March, I think, what is it, the 15th? Is it that the Monday? Anyway, it's 2 weeks from tonight, so I assume it's the 15th.
Yes.
And if there's nothing else anyone has to say, could I hear a motion to adjourn? Somebody,
Melody.
thank you. Edna, second, please.
Second, Edna.
Thank you, Edna. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.